Here we go. Okay. Well, everyone who's watching, actually, I'm going to switch this to speaker view. That'll be better. All right. So hi to everyone on all of the channels who may or may not be watching. We are live from Portland, Oregon with Marcie, Steve, and Cameron from the Wet Spot. I'm Alex. If you've got questions as we go along, please let us know. Otherwise, we're just going to be having a quick chat about everything that's been going on for the 22nd annual anniversary sale over at the Wet Spot. So 22 years in business. That's a long time. How did this happen?
How did this happen?
How did this happen?
I guess a good business idea that's made it for that long. So yeah, I guess the idea of the store started obviously 22 years ago. The space where the store is now became available. It used to be a old leather store, and it was across the street from our other business, which is a cyclic exchange, and it was across the street, and it was like literally within a block. So I figured if I'm ever going to have a retail store, that's the time to do it, because we didn't have very many people, and being so close, we could run and back and forth and run both places at the same time. So then the work started to open up a store, which at that point was half the size it is now. The idea was to provide all of these different, unique, healthy, and have a really knowledgeable staff that actually could teach people about fish, and so that they could be successful. Too many people are, in the hobby and out of the hobby because their fish don't live. They get bad knowledge or bad advice, and they just don't succeed. And then so that was completely against what I wanted to do. Plus, we had so many neat fish that we offered at the wholesale facility that the rest of the stores in our own town would not buy, which to me was so frustrating, because the worst thing was that we would actually have hobbyists call the cyclic exchange at that point, and they would call and want to order a certain fish, and we'd say, no, we don't sell to the public, we're a wholesale facility, but you can get it from your local store. And so I said, so then they would call their local store. Well, the local store didn't have it, of course. So I arranged with the local stores to have them be able to pick up a certain item at the store. So just pick an item, say, coolie loaches or something, just random item. But, oh no, we don't carry coolie loaches. I said, yeah, but all you're going to do is I'm going to bring you the bag and you're going to sell it to the person. And their answer was still, we don't sell coolie loaches. I think, so you don't want to make money. You don't want to take care of customers, and you don't want to give them what they want. So I got really frustrated and said, this is when the store has to happen. So that's kind of how the store became about.
Well, that's great. So is the cyclic exchange still there too?
No, we have moved the cyclic exchange from that point. He was there for 28 years, and then we've moved it since. Oh, wow. So now we're in our current facility for 6 years. But now we're no longer across the street, so it's not convenient anymore. But now we have completely different, the two businesses run completely independently of each other, completely different staff, completely everything is different. So there's really no connection like we used to have, where people would go back and forth. We really don't have that.
Gotcha. All right, well, thanks for the background. All right, before we get any farther, I should have probably started with this. Would you all do me a favor, tell everybody who you are and how you're associated with that spot?
Okay, I'll start. I'm Marcie, and I run the Wet Spot.
I'm Steve, and you just heard the story, but I run the cyclic exchange.
I'm Cameron, and I am the store manager of the Wet Spot.
Cool. All right, thanks for that. Okay, so where did the name come from? How did Wet Spot start?
It's just a random story. When we were that's nothing weird. We were working in the building, painting the walls of the current place where we are, and we moved in. Like I said, it was an old leather store, which had been there for a long time, and the walls were yellow, which was a really odd color for anybody who had painted an entire store with yellow walls. But we just started painting and trying to figure out what colors to paint the walls. And one of the guys at that time that was helping me, a friend from the fish club, Norm Edelin, at that time was painting the walls, and next thing we look over, he's painted on the walls Wet Spot. And we thought, I thought we should call it the Wet Spot. And everybody at that point was kind of going back and forth, and then they dared me to name the store the Wet Spot. And I said, no, it's kind of the name. So we decided to go with the name.
Nice, I like it. Somehow in my mind, I was envisioning like you bought this store and you had a leaky problem and there was like a huge wet spot issue on the wall and you had to cover it with something. And I was
No,
like,
that'd
that's
be a
what
better
happened. That's
story.
totally what
That would be a
happened.
better story. But no, that wasn't it. It was just he painted it on the wall, and then they dared me to actually call it that, so we did.
I
So,
like it.
and it
that's
caused a
cool.
lot of controversy. A lot of people didn't like it at first.
Really?
Certainly in the old days when you were in the phone book, being a W was the worst thing you could be, because you'd be at the end of the list instead of at the beginning of the phone book. But we didn't
Right.
care, so we went ahead and did it anyway.
It's still a fun Google.
It's still a fun Google, and our website is also a fun Google. If you don't get all the letters right, wetspottropicalfish.com. If you don't get all the letters, you end up somewhere you don't want to be. Be sure you get it all
And
there.
I mean, internet searches are forever. You've got to be careful about your accuracy on this
You gotta
stuff.
get to Wet Spot Tropical. You need the 2 T's.
Yes,
in a
2
row, or
T's.
you'll end up in a bad place.
A bad place. That's very funny. So Marcie, you have a wet spot license plate, do you?
I do, I do. When I started with this store, I wanted personalized plates, so I applied to get them, and it was rejected. So I got the letter from the state saying no, that the name was not fit, or
Obscene.
it was obscene. They gave me this,
What?
yeah. So I had to send them a response saying that on letterhead, this is the name of our business. So they said after reviewing it, they're like, oh, okay, you can have your license plate.
That is so funny. I feel like if I'd had the job of responding to that, it would have been like, you're obscene. That's the problem. The only reason we thought this is because of you. Yeah, probably wouldn't have got the license plate. So good. I'm
It was
glad that
pretty
worked out.
hilarious driving around, having people drive up behind you and people taking pictures of
Yes.
your license plates.
Yeah. All the time. Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
I wonder how many people have gotten text messages with a picture of your license plate. Like, haha, look at what I just saw.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably quite a few. That's funny. All right. What about you, Cameron? How long have you been at Wet Spot?
I've been at the Wet Spot for 3.5 years now, all in a managerial role. I was actually, I always like to say, recruited from the Midwest. I met Steve at the Aquatic Experience in Chicago, the last one. Before then meeting him once more, thanks to, I'm going to shout out Gary Lang here, Rainbow Fish expert, for kind of introducing us at Catfish Cataclysm in 2017. And he said, well, seem to really like freshwater fish. If your path ever leads you to Portland, Oregon, here's my business card. By all means, shoot me an email and we'd love to have you. And 3.5 years later, here I am.
That's great. Did you move there for the Wet Spot?
Yes. No
Yes.
exaggeration in the slightest. I packed up from West Lafayette, Indiana, where I'm from, to Portland, Oregon, and haven't looked back once.
I love it.
In a
Well, I
while.
mean, your hair says you've been from Portland all along. So
Yes.
Good job.
Yes, yes. You
Perfectly.
fit in perfectly.
perfect.
Seamless.
It's so good.
Yeah.
That's
Swimmingly.
cool. Swimmingly, obviously. Yep. Yep. So, all right. What's your favorite part about working at Wet Spot, Cameron?
I would say that my favorite part about working at Wet Spot, and has been the whole time, is I get to work at a place where not only do we have the largest variety of freshwater fish, the healthiest variety, and the rarest freshwater fish, but not only doing that, but also getting to share that bond with other aquarists and teaching other aquarists really the joys of the freshwater hobby. I did keep salt for many years. I used to work at a store for many years back in my hometown, Aquarium World, that also sold salt water, so I am well versed in that. But my favorite part is really every day there's always going to be someone that needs help with something that I can further educate, or someone that really has that same, again, kind of a bond of, we really like this obscure fish, or I'm really receptive of this interesting rare fish that you don't see every day. I want to have that in my tank. I want to learn about it. I want to learn more about that animal in particular, and just, it never gets old, even after 10 years of retail experience, just being excited about the same things and helping people enjoy the same hobby that I've been obsessed with for 20 years.
That's awesome. I guess that's how you know you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, I agree with Cameron. I think the look on someone's face when you give them, show them a certain fish, or, tell them how to take care of it. And it's a joy, and every day is different.
It's so fun. Well, I mean, just from that little tour that we got yesterday from Stefan, I know it was crazy busy in there yesterday, but I mean, it's obvious that there's a really intense attention to detail there, and this is not your average fish store, which is
just the thing is too, when people come in or call and they'll ask for something and they're like, oh, I'm just gonna take a chance if they have it. Like, oh yeah, we have that. And the look on people's face, you actually get to see a lot of these fish that they thought were only either a myth or one time. And we have a lot of these things, and we have them regularly because we have a very good following for people that like a lot of these different kinds of fish. Plus, I like them a lot. Cameron likes them a lot. Marcie likes me thing. It's fun to just see the look on people's face to actually have these fish available.
That's really great. I love that. Okay, so Stefan says I need to ask about the adoption program. Tell me about this.
Oh, by all means.
So one thing that, of course, that we do get is we do have very large numbers of fish that come in and out very quickly. I mean, sales do go very fast, but whether a fish is wild caught or whether a fish is tank raised, you will still end up with a lot of fish that have essentially a genetic defect, or unfortunately something that may have been brought about due to conditions at some point or another during their life. Missing operculum or the small eye gene or a weird spine. And as someone who really kind of enjoys ending up with those fish anyway, I mean, I personally have no beef if a fish species that I've been after has something that isn't deleterious to the animal's quality of life. I mean, I want that fish, because unfortunately a lot of people will only buy for fish that are perfect, so to speak.
Sure.
There's a scratch on them. So what we've done is, for like-minded people that do enjoy those fish, started a program called the Adopt a Fish program. We've got these nice little stickers for them, and one of our gals does a great job of typing up these profiles, making these fish that otherwise would be kind of an end of a batch, kind of bottom of the barrel, unfortunately, so to speak, is how they're viewed sometimes, and just trying to find them good homes where someone will treasure them, even if they do have a missing spine or a missing operculum. I at home am currently working with some fish that have curvy spines or small eyeballs, and to me they're the same as the other conspecifics that I have. I mean, it's just a nice fish and I'm glad to have them, and if they're a little different, that's okay. And it's nice that we've started this program that a lot of people share that view. It is really nice to find those a home, as opposed to unfortunately not everyone shares those views, and those fish aren't taken quite as well care of, or I've even heard horror stories where they're unfortunately euthanized. But we do feature that prominently. We do recommend that people wanting to do that go through our online sales, and they'd be able to essentially hook up every willing home with their potential fit, their fish or their shrimp or something else, just to make sure that animal is well taken care of throughout its life.
That's really great. I love that. Oh, more people need to do this. Are you going to franchise this idea to other places? Can other people do an adoption program? I don't know. I think we need this. Yeah, we do. So, all right, I guess kind of making this connection back to the magazine, what connects Amazonas with Wet Spot and its leaders? How are we all connected?
I think we both believe in educating the hobbyist.
Yeah, definitely.
There is a lot of erroneous information on the web, and having a solid, beautiful magazine that actually tells you about stories and facts is complements our philosophy of healthy freshwater fish. So I think they go hand in hand.
It's great. No, we feel the same way for sure. It's
I love the fact that it's the print base. I'm not really a guy, if you tell me something's online and I need to read it online, I usually don't do it. So just the actually holding a book or holding a magazine where you actually can see it and have it and look at it and put it on your shelf, but then look at it again and look for the reference material, and the idea that you have featured on all of these different unique things, but also some things that may not be, and other things to really help the idea of the hobby, where we all started with the hobby. Stefan jumped out of the comfort zone with the weird waters thing, and where you wanted to actually start the hobby. because we all started somewhere, and and unfortunately, there's not as many young people coming along as there once was. So the idea of trying to feature fish as a viable pet in today's world, where kids don't seem to think of fish the same way that they once did. That's also another unique way of trying to get the hobby going, by starting people off with a certain thing, but then just working it all the way through with just really good quality articles that are, like somebody said, fact-based and accurate photos, and travel logs where people get to see where people go.
Yeah.
But the whole idea of the hobby and the quality and the beauty of it, because it's a beautiful magazine. So
It is. Thanks.
we
No,
focus the aquarium, an aquarium like the one behind you in our picture we're looking at, is that's a beautiful thing people would want in their home.
Yeah,
And I think that's what we're all striving to have people have.
definitely. Yeah, thanks. That's I know one of the things I enjoy anyway about being part of Amazon is so frequently is reading these really fabulous articles from people who have dedicated huge portions of their life to the hobby. And sometimes it's not necessarily that because it's their job, but it's because it's what they love doing. And it's something that had a really positive impact on them as kids or young adults. And they really want to be able to pass that on to people. And yeah, some of our travel stories are just, it's like going there yourself. It's a great opportunity to kind of get a look at what's going on in the rest of the world and connecting you to the fish in a different way. They're not just an animal in an aquarium. They came from somewhere. And it's a really good
somewhere.
Yeah, it's a good learning opportunity. Even if they are captive bred, like they still came from somewhere. So yeah, it's nice to be able to feature that. So very
With
cool.
the based on that thing you just said, it's amazing how many people will come into the store and buy a fish and want to know, will it make it home in the bag to my house?
Oh,
Do you realize how the journey that fish has already been to be in this store now?
right.
So I don't think a lot of people still have any comprehension where these fish come from,
No.
and go through to get to where they are. So fish are pretty darn tough.
Yeah, they're incredibly resilient. It's pretty amazing. That's very cool. All right, well, I guess we should probably wrap up soon-ish, and I'm going to keep an eye on to see if anyone's got questions on our Facebook feed. I think people are just enjoying hearing about this. But Marcie and Steve in particular, how did you two get into the hobby? What kind of drew you to the aquarium trade in the first place?
I go first. Well, I guess I would be a good example of almost the idea of just starting as a kid. I mean, I loved from the first time I saw them.
Yeah.
I saw an aquarium in one of my cousin's house. We went there for a normal family visit, and he had a little aquarium, and I fell in love with it and said I want to have fish. And so I just had fish, and my parents were pretty supportive about, if I wanted it and I could take care of it, and they would help me with it, and I had to use my allowance. And so it was not that they would give it to me, but I had to kind of earn it. And I earned it, and I got more and more fish, and then a few of them had babies, and then that was a disaster, because as soon as that happened,
that's the clincher.
You have to have more tanks. So then I ended up with more and more tanks. So by the time I finally left my parents' house, I think I had 40 some aquariums. So at one point they were all scattered all over the house, but then they remodeled the basement, and so I could put the aquariums all downstairs in one little area. So I had them all downstairs. But I had a pretty good size amount of aquariums.
Yeah, 40 tanks.
They were supportive with me with the hobby, but they never thought I would ever, because I always thought that's what I wanted to do for a job, and they never thought I would ever be able to make it work. And obviously it has. Cyclo Exchange is now 36 years old, and the wet spot's now 22. So obviously this whole fish world has worked for a long time.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. What about you, Marcie?
Well, let's see. I didn't have any fish when I met Steve, but I remember the first fish I saw at the wet spot was the roseline shark. It was absolutely beautiful. And at that time, we were the first ones to import it from India, correct?
Yep.
So we were the only ones that had it. And there was actually a waiting list for it. So I wanted to get on the waiting list, and that was my first fish, my first love. But now it's clown roaches.
Oh, yeah, I can understand that. What
And
about
then-
you? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes,
And Steve.
yes,
And Steve.
He's my.
yes.
He's been
Yeah,
a
she
terrible influence on you, I can tell.
Clown Lunches at home.
Terrible,
So,
terrible.
Rose Line First and Clown Lunches both at home still
Yes,
to
we
this
do.
day.
Aw.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And,
and
and,
Steve. Yeah.
and I love the special fish. Actually, that was probably one of my first tanks was the special adoptable fish.
Oh, I love that.
Right now we have he's totally blind. Silver dollar.
Yep.
Totally blind silver dollar. He was like this tiny when I got him, and Steve didn't think he was gonna make it. And I said, well, I want to take him home anyway. And now he's about that
Good
big.
Lord, he's impressive.
So he's thriving, and he doesn't even know he's blind. So.
Oh,
No.
that's so nice.
He fights with the Clown Lunches for food. It's unbelievable. Yeah. Yeah, because he was, like Cameron was mentioning how fish get damaged or whatever during their life. This
Yeah.
fish, as a young fish, had eyes. But somehow or another, he got both of its eyes and literally, unfortunately, picked out of its head by something else. And so he has two holes where the eyes used to be.
Oh,
But yeah, it's interesting. He'll sit in the aquarium and sit in the corner most of the time. But then when the food comes in, he immediately can smell, and he's in the pile with the Clown Lunches fighting for the food.
wow. Well,
And
that's
done really
great.
Yes.
It's nice. It reminded me, I have a green spot puffer that's got horrible cataracts. I have no idea how he sees at all. But he gets there. It's fun.
Yep.
He's so cute though. You can't fight with puffers. Too cute. What about you, Cameron? How did you get into it?
I grew up in a zoo household for many years. My mom was the head keeper and then later the director of a zoo in my hometown. And of course, I wasn't allowed to get a dog. So I got a tarantula first, and then on to my first fish tank was a 75-gallon with red belly piranhas. I got to start off right off the bat with a
Wow,
bunch
you
of
didn't mess around.
fish, and through very, very supportive parents at every step of the way, and through many ceilings leaked through in a 48 by 18-inch perfect path, I was just able to really keep whatever fish I was after and really just expand upon whatever. And of course, they suffered through probably weekly trips to the local aquarium store where I ended up later working. And I was just at every point allowed to, and really encouraged to keep whatever I wanted so long as it could be kept with the animal's welfare in mind, long-term, as well as with my own goals. As I started out at 8, I believe, with those piranhas, as long as it was something that I could reasonably do myself. And the number of aquariums, of course, fluctuated over the years, as did the contents, just depending on exactly really where the winds blew and what to get away with. So it's, I would say, been in my blood for a long, long time, and has never really wavered. And I've always had that support to really just keep pursuing wherever the fish took me, really.
And we're
Oh,
glad
that's great.
here.
Yes, we're glad they brought him here.
It sounds like it. That's yeah, it's a nice little fish family you've got going over there. It's lovely.
Yes, very much so.
So before we go, tell us about the anniversary sale, and then we'll wrap up and let you guys get back to your Saturday.
Well, it's 22 years, as you mentioned, and everything is % off except live foods.
All right. And it's obviously been really busy.
That started yesterday and it goes through tomorrow.
Yes,
Yep.
tomorrow's
Okay.
the final
For of course,
in-store.
we do also have, we've just started releasing the dates and other specifications, of course, on our newsletter, as well as our social media for the upcoming, of course, for those not local that still love us, our online anniversary sale as well, which will be coming up here shortly, where everything is also going to have a discount attached, much like our store sale.
Much like, but not the same.
Right.
Much like, but not the same. All right, got it. Well, that's great. Okay, so this is the big blowout weekend. So you've got one more day. What are your hours tomorrow in case anyone watching happens to be in Oregon?
11 to 6.
11 to 6. Okay, folks, you've got till 6 on the East Coast to get your butts there tomorrow and see what you've been missing out on. Well, cool. Thank you all for taking the time to sit down and chat. It was a lovely way to spend the evening. So good luck on all of the anniversary sale madness, and we'll look forward to catching up with you guys again sometime soon.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.
Yeah.
You too.
Bye.
All right, bye.